Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a rookies and sophomores draft over on Underdog Fantasy. Inside today's video, I'll be talking about my thought process as I make each and every single pick inside this draft, as well as discussing my strategy when it comes to smaller best ball drafts. This is a 4-team best ball draft with the caveat that you can only draft rookies and sophomores, which is why the title of this tournament is called Rookies and Sophomores. So the roster position in today's video is 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 wide receivers / tight ends. You can play a wide receiver or a tight end in that spot, and a flex, and then 7 bench spots. Now, if you guys are not familiar with the best ball format, basically this is a lot like a regular redraft fantasy football league, except for there's no waivers, there's no trading, but you don't even have to set your lineup. You kind of just do these drafts, you set it, you forget it, you come back at the end of the season, and you see how well your teams ended up doing. Or, you know, you could also follow the team throughout the season, but that may be a little difficult if you do a bunch of these drafts. If you guys would like to go ahead and sign up for Underdog Fantasy, there is going to be a link down below in the description that you guys can click that gets you up to a $100 deposit match bonus if you are new to the website using promo code AWESEMO. You can also use the link down below in the description. So I hope you guys do end up enjoying today's video. And I'm just going to go ahead and zoom into the fact that we're actually in the draft and not make you guys sit here and wait with me. All right, guys, so the draft has begun. The first pick of the draft was Jamar Chase. That doesn't really surprise me at all, followed by Trey Lance, quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. So here, Trey Lance would have been my pick. That's who I would have preferred, but we're just going to go ahead and go with a wide receiver in this spot, and we're going to go ahead and get Jalen Waddle. I really do believe that Jalen Waddle could easily be a top 5 wide receiver in 2022. I think that with Mike McDaniel as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, I understand some people in the comments, they know I'm a Dolphins fan, wearing a Miami Dolphins shirt right now. They may say that, oh, Nick, it's because you're a Dolphins fan. Maybe that has a slight impact on it, but not really. I really do think with Mike McDaniel, we could see Jalen Waddle getting a lot of rushing opportunity. Maybe they throw him into a Deebo Samuel-like role, so I really do like Jalen Waddle in 2022, so that's why he's my pick there. Could have went with Williams or Najee Harris as well, but here we're going to go ahead and get a quarterback because the quarterback position is not very deep, and we're going to go ahead and snag Justin Fields. And the reason why I say that the quarterback position isn't necessarily super deep in a draft like this is because the rookie quarterbacks, there's not a lot of spots where I see these guys being the starting quarterback for a lot of the year. Maybe a guy like Malik Willis will be able to do that. But to me, there is no set in stone kind of quarterback after 1 or 2 of them that I think is going to be starting a lot of the time. So that's why I went ahead and snagged up Justin Fields. After that, we saw Kyle Pitts, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Mystic Mac Jones. So here we got a couple of choices we go with. I think Elijah Moore is being a little bit overrated based upon his ADP. So I'm going to go ahead and snag one of, if not the best running back in this draft class, and that is going to be Breece Hall out of Iowa State. He had back-to-back 1,400-plus yard seasons with over 20-plus touchdowns. His passing catching abilities are there. He's not necessarily this excellent pass catcher, but he does have that, and he ran a 4.39 40-yard dash. So we're back up on the board here. Breece Hall came off the board, followed by Elijah Moore, and then Devontae Smith. So we're back up here, and we're going to go ahead and hop back onto the wide receiver train here and snag Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think a lot of people are very low on Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm surprised I was able to even get him at 14th overall. I think he is going to potentially finish as a top 10 wide receiver in 2022. Now, it's not a lock on who his quarterback is going to end up being this season. It could be Jared Goff. They could go ahead and move on halfway through the season and maybe a rookie quarterback comes in. Maybe something like that. The quarterback situation definitely isn't set in stone, but I do think that Amon-Ra St. Brown will be the wide receiver number 1 there in Detroit. After that, we see Travis Etienne, Elijah Mitchell, as well as Michael Carter, followed by Kadarius Toney. So we're back up on the board here, and I feel as though while normally you don't want to go ahead and just be drafting quarterbacks left and right, unless you're in a super flex draft, in this scenario, in the way that these drafts are created, I feel as though you almost need to go ahead and snag another quarterback, especially one that I feel as though could be a starter day 1. I would not be surprised at all if Willis was the starter of the Pittsburgh Steelers for week number 1, obviously getting rid of Big Ben Roethlisberger. Now, we are doing this before the 2022 NFL draft, so a lot of things could change, but a lot of things could change positively for our cause because maybe Malik Willis gets drafted super early. People start being really excited to have have him on their fantasy team, and then we just went ahead and got him on the cheap. Pick 19. After that, we saw Garrett Wilson, followed by Davis Mills. So we're back up on the board here, and I want to go ahead and snag yet another wide receiver. We're going to go ahead and get my favorite wide receiver in this draft, or at least one of my favorite wide receivers in that draft, and that's going to be Drake London of the USC Trojans. Over 1,000 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns last season. He is personally my favorite wide receiver to watch, and if he lands in the correct spot, I think he could do some huge damage in year number 1. He did end up getting hurt in 2021, so he did not end up running the 40 at the combine last week. It was reported that he will work out at the USC Pro Day, which tells me that he is going to be perfectly fine by training camp, definitely fine by the start of the 2022 NFL season. After him with London came Rashad Bateman, Walker, and then Burks, and then Chris Olave. So we're back up on the board here. The running back position does not seem to be super important in terms of how this draft is situated, so I don't think you necessarily have to hammer in on the running back position. I'm a little bit worried about Ramondre Stevenson. I think he's a solid running back, but I'm just not too sure what his role is going to be on this offense. It seems as though Christian Kirk may end up being gone next season, and that gives me a little bit more confidence on a guy like Rondale Moore. You may have wanted to go ahead and maybe go another way. Maybe you draft Pat Freiermuth there. Maybe you draft Stevenson because in your head that is a little bit safer. But for me, I went ahead and got a guy that I like in Arizona that I think if Christian Kirk does end up being gone, could be a very solid pick. Next up, we're going to go ahead and go with another running back, kind of picking up these later round running backs that I think could have the upside to get at least some work here. I'm going to go with Isaiah Spiller of the Texas A&M Aggies. He had back-to-back over 1,000-yard rushing seasons with 6 total touchdowns in 2021. He did not run a 40-yard dash, but I think he is going to be just fine. It really does depend on where these guys land, right? If Breece Hall and Isaiah Spiller land in two situations where maybe they're not necessarily the number one back, you'd hope so for Breece Hall. But maybe Isaiah Spiller ends up as the number 2 on a team. Someone gets hurt. Isaiah Spiller comes in, and he could potentially be a league winner in fantasy football drafts and potentially win me the big prize pool at the end of this for the rookies and sophomores draft. So I like Isaiah Spiller a decent amount. We are back up on the board here inside of the 9th round. Freiermuth went, so did Williams, Pickens, White. So we are back up on the board here. I am not too interested at all in Kenneth Gainwell. I would have been very interested in Joshua Palmer had we have seen that they didn't re-sign Mike Williams. So here we're going to go ahead and hop back in on the running back train. And you know what? We're going to go with Kenneth Gainwell. It feels as though I don't love that pick, but at the end of the day, Gainwell is still going to be seeing opportunities on this Philadelphia team. It seems like maybe now they have just randomly decided to have full confidence in Kenny Gainwell, but if I'm being honest with you, I don't think that. I don't think they have full confidence in any running back there. So maybe Gainwell does just see a couple more touches, and that leads him to be a very solid solid running back, I should say, in terms of fantasy football. So we're back up on the board here. Not loving really any of these players, but we're going to go ahead and go with Dotson here. Of the Penn State Nittany Lions, he had 91 receptions for 1,182 yards and 12 touchdowns in 2021. He does have a smaller type of build. He is only 5'11", but he did run a 4.43 40-yard dash, and you can just kind of see the upside when you watch him play at Penn State. So we're back up on the board. There's only a couple of rounds left here. So we're going to go ahead and hop back in on the quarterback train and hope that maybe Matt Corral is one of the quarterbacks that does get at least some upside, does show a little bit at whatever school he ends up going to, whatever NFL team he ends up going to. Sam Howell also is an interesting pick, but I think now with 3 quarterbacks here, we know Justin Fields is going to be the starter. If he ends up getting hurt, then this draft just flies directly out the fucking window. But we do have obviously Malik Willis and Matt Corral who could hopefully be starting quarterbacks. You could take Chuba Hubbard as just the backup running back to Christian McCaffrey, hope he gets in the game, or you can just take an upside shot on a different player here, and we're going to go ahead and take another stab at an upside player, and we're going to go with Mechie. Now, I understand that John Mechie of the Alabama Crimson Tide did end up getting hurt. He tore his ACL in the SEC championship game, but he did have 96 receptions for 1,142 yards and 8 touchdowns. There's also reports coming out that, hey, the guy is actually recovering relatively quickly. He is going to be good to go for early on next season, so I'm very excited about him. So we're going to go ahead and recap our team. These rookies and sophomore drafts go by very, very fast. This is going to be a shorter type of video. Justin Fields, Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Breece Hall, Isaiah Spiller, Kenneth Gainwell, Jalen Waddle, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Drake London, Ronald Moore, John Dotson, as well as John Mechie, or Jahan Dotson. Sorry, I apologize if I say any of these players wrong. So we're going to go ahead here and end today's video. If you did end up enjoying, if you want to do a draft like this, make sure you guys do check out Underdog Fantasy, link down below in the video description. I just realized I was covering the bottom right of the screen, so I will go ahead and pan down again so you can look at the team. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. As always, guys, good boy.